Well, thank you very much, Dr. Clough, and thanks all of you for joining us today. I'm sure you must have the same feeling I do, which is whenever you walk into the Smithsonian, your eyes start to go towards all the things on the walls and the sides, so you're trying to be introduced to people or go on to an event. But this is just such a feast to be here. As I think all of you know, a year ago we launched the Global Tiger Initiative. It was a little bit of a warmer day at the National Zoo, so I'm glad we could do this one in an air-conditioned environment. But the purpose remains absolutely the same, which is to try to help stabilize and restore the wild tiger population and their habitats. To ensure that we keep our eye on the ball, or in this case, the tiger, I wanted us to meet in public again, to recognize another step in the partnership between the Smithsonian Institution and the World Bank Group, but also to check on our progress. We're here today because we share a belief that the extinction of the wild tiger in its natural habitat would be an extraordinary tragedy. It would be a tragedy not only because of the appalling loss of these beautiful animals, but also because it would pose a threat to the health of the habitats in which they live and the prey populations that support them. By working to save the wild tigers, we're protecting a majestic animal so it can be discovered and admired by future generations and to continue to stir the imagination of humankind. But at the same time, we're preserving the biodiversity of our planet. So I want to thank Dr. Clough, the Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, Steve Monfort, the Acting Director of the Smithsonian's National Zoo, who was kind enough to take me around the Front Royal facility, for their extraordinary partnership in this endeavor. We know that the Smithsonian Institution brings unmatched experience and commitment to the study, the management, the protection, and the restoration of threatened species and ecosystem. So wild tigers cannot have a better team on their side. I also want to thank the members of Congress that have been involved with this, including Congresswoman Madeleine Bordallo, who will be addressing us later. And I also wanted to welcome Dr. Eric Dinerstein, the Vice President and Chief Scientist at the World Wildlife Fund, whose conservation work is dated back some 35 years, and Pavan Sukhdev of Deutsche Bank, who is trying out a methodology very important for evaluating the economic loss of biodiversity and ecosystems. I also want to thank a number of my colleagues at the World Bank who are here with us today. What's been extraordinary is this idea developed at our institution, which covers 185 member states. We're in some 120 countries. How many people have taken the time and effort to try to integrate this in all aspects of their work, whether it be the trafficking, whether it be in the biodiversity area for some of the forest lands for the tigers, whether it be in other efforts to link it to an effective and sustainable economic development. They've really done a fantastic job. The issue that draws us together, of course, is that tigers and their habitats are vanishing from Asia, and their numbers are absolutely shocking. In the last century, 100,000 tigers roamed the wild. Today, that number has plummeted to 3,500, and very few people know that number. I had a conversation with Prime Minister Rudd of Australia, a friend for many years. I pointed out at that time we were estimating 4,000, and he was absolutely shocked. And he said, what can we in Australia try to do to be of help? Tigers now occupy only 7% of their original range. Now, when we lose material assets, they can be replaced or rebuilt. But when a plant or an animal species disappears, the damage is irreparable, and the loss reverberates down the food chain. So the extinction of the tiger threatens wildlife across all of Asia. We know what's causing the decline in numbers of wild tigers: illegal poaching, illegal wildlife trade, loss of habitat through conversion, encroachment, and land degradation. But the good news is that we also learn that tiger populations can recover. To do so, we have to target the illicit demand that drives tiger decline, because the illegal trade in wildlife is nothing more than organized crime. In fact, it's the third largest form of organized crime after the arms and the drugs trade. So we have to turn up the heat on the illegal poachers and the traders. For example, China and the United States are the world's largest wildlife-consuming countries, with 20% of the global trade destined for the United States. So there's an enormous potential for reducing the global demand for tiger products if these two countries can work together more closely to tighten law enforcement and fundamentally to change attitudes. Because curbing demand must also involve raising awareness of the value and the symbolism of live tigers rather than just tiger parts. We also have to protect the habitat of wild tigers. And here, the private sector we've seen can play a very critical role. Corporations have been deeply engaged in tiger and habitat conservation for decades through financial contributions to conservation efforts in developing countries. ExxonMobil's leadership as a founding partner in the Save the Tiger Fund has been a terrific example. It's leveraged more than $30 million to save tigers, preserve their habitats, and support neighboring communities over the last 15 years. But we have to do much more. We need to safeguard all the existing tiger landscapes from pressures that are imposed by pollution, road construction, development, and exploration. So saving the tiger in the wild is a global challenge, and we won't succeed if we work alone. If we work together, we can leverage each other's skills, knowledge, experience, creativity, and resources to achieve what has to be a common goal. The Global Tiger Initiative was conceived with this notion of building an alliance in mind, to bring together a range of partners from government, global NGOs, international organizations, scientific world, and the private sector to help bring tigers back from the brink. Now, we've made progress on several fronts since we launched this initiative last June. The World Bank Group is now engaging the governments of all the tiger range countries and intergovernmental organizations at high political levels. We're starting to change the conversation on key issues such as crime detection and prevention, better management of habitats, improving infrastructure planning, reducing demand for illegal tiger parts, and offering poaching communities alternative economic opportunities. So I'm pleased to report that there's a new energy and sense of urgency about tiger conservation in this dialogue. It's not just words. This April, the government of Thailand hosted a very important regional conference in Pattaya to support the Global Tiger Initiative. And it was focused particularly on illegal trade and trafficking in endangered species. We're working with some of the senior police officials in the ASEAN countries to get at this core topic. And the workshop provided a stimulus to commit senior leaders from tiger range countries to take effective steps towards tiger conservation and to strengthen cooperation across borders. Thailand's Minister of the Environment and Natural Resources, for example, has called for the creation of a ministerial steering committee to provide much-needed political support in the issues of tiger conservation. Now, those of you that have dealt with the topics of CITES over the years and have known about the wildlife trafficking trade, including through Southeast Asia, this is a stupendous development. And we don't have a chance unless we bring the countries of Southeast Asia into this process. So it's extremely encouraging to me that the leadership that Thailand has played, but all the ASEAN countries, or most of them, are participating at this part. At the workshop, 21 countries and international organizations endorsed the Pattaya Manifesto, a call to action for effective and coordinated efforts to combat wildlife crime by tightening the laws, the legislation, and the enforcement. Now, today we're taking another very important step